Hi, I'm the manager of Global Operational Excellence and Projects.
How did you start at Sandvik?
I started in Sandvik when DSI got acquired by Sandvik, but my history in the group of companies starts in 2013.
What were your specialty there?
Well, I started as a cost controller and then a financial controller, but I always got drawn into operations because I was close to that, close to the production process, setting up parameters and so on. So I really enjoyed running around, or not running around, but walking around the plant. That kind of stuck with me.
What goals are you currently working on?
I changed positions recently, and our organization now is on a mission, I would say, to improve our operational footprint. So there has been a bit of restructuring. Part of that is me, and we're looking into getting more efficient in general. But we're setting up a structure so that we can measure and monitor that. So we're setting up new KPIs. We're thinking about how we're using our production systems, how we record our production data, so that we can measure that and verify that on a consistent basis on a global perspective, right? Because it doesn't make sense if every plant does their data their own way, then they are not comparable. Well, it's certainly a long run.
What are your goals in terms of being green?
Sustainability is a vocal part of our global strategy, and we try to realize it through ESG, so environmental, social and governance activities.
What is the plan for 2050?
We have an ambition to become zero emission in 2050, and also we want to have zero accidents right here, right now. We always say and that's also something that Sandvik highly promotes, but it was always in our DNA that safety is first. We actually work in a safety business, right? We make miners safe. We want to have our people safe in our plants as well.
How do you measure the progress?
So we do have some KPIs that we measure. We measure our CO2 emissions, we measure our fuel consumption, water consumption, our productivity, tonnage and pieces made. But as you mentioned, we also try to be reliable, and we want to be trustworthy in our data. That's why we also, in many areas around the globe, implement environmental product declarations, which are a standardized format that is also double-checked by a third party, verifying whether what we claim on our CO2 emissions is true or not.
What are the examples of things you are implementing worldwide?
Well, recently we put a lot of effort in solar PV installations, as here in Stalowa Wola it has been installed last year. We also have existing installations in Australia, China and Brazil. We plan to put additional solar PV installations in Mexico, Peru and Chile, and one more in Poland actually this year. And also we expect to increase the capacity of the existing solar PV installations. But that's only solar PV. We then also have an ambition to have water recovery systems. So we have an ambition to change our lighting to LED, change our car fleet to electric, our forklift fleet to electric. And most of all, because when you look at, and I mentioned that earlier in our environmental product declaration, which part of our business generates the most CO2, it's by far steel. So we're looking into making even a bit of progress, but there's actually a lot of potential in the steel that we buy, and we're looking at strategic alliances with our suppliers and customers that would be willing to buy this steel to reduce our CO2 footprint this way.
What are the main obstacles you face during implementing those changes?
If we're talking steel, for example, if you want to go green steel, which means for us now electric arc furnace steel, which is a different process. I don't want to get into that technicality, but then you're limiting your supplier base. So that's one of the challenges, where drop your negotiation capability, but we're also mitigating this. So we're actively looking for suppliers that have an electric arc furnace and are not our suppliers today. We're being active in that area.
How about the long-term sustainable initiatives?
I think I mentioned part of them, like solar PV installations, water recovery systems, changing lighting, changing steel. We also want to make sure that it materializes, right? So we verify our processes, we check whether things happen, we go through sustainability audits. So we have a global structure, global sustainability manager that visits all sites on a regular basis, checks KPIs, checks the data, makes sure that everything is rolling in that area.
How do you handle the greenwashing problem?
Greenwashing is a problem, and that's why we are transparent in our data and our information, and we implemented environmental product declarations in several locations and for several product lines in our group. And the environmental product declaration is a standardized methodology of calculating CO2 emissions, which is then verified by a third party, and then only it can be published. That's why we went into that direction, so that we can give solid information to our customers that we are reliable and we're not doing any of these practices.
How do you train your employee in terms of a green mindset?
I think it starts with culture, and we're very much dedicated into sustainability. It's a subject that is very often discussed in our company. So I think most of all our employees need to be aware that this is a top priority, and I think they are aware that this is a top priority. And then whenever there's an opportunity to do something better in terms of CO2 emission, water consumption and things like that, they come to the management and suggest changes if they are applicable or if they are doable.
What does that mean personally to you? Why is it important to be sustainable?
Well, it feels right. I'm happy that my company has such values, and it makes me, want to progress and want to work harder to make things happen. It's also a business, so our customers need to be aligned with us on that. But we see that it is the case. People think mining is bad for the environment and so on. So mining companies want to prove that it's not the case, and they want to be green as well.
Why is it important to be sustainable?
For me, sustainability goes hand in hand with efficiency, because when you relook your processes, you double check your processes, you might understand that you maybe haven't been doing something in the most efficient way. And when you're trying to optimize from a CO2 emission perspective, you might realize that you don't need to use this much CO2, and maybe you need less energy for a process, or maybe you need less fuel for a delivery and freight. You might find smarter routes and reduce your CO2 emission, and at the same time spend less money on this freight. I would summarize it in 2 points. One is it simply feels right, and the other one is the customers also expect that. It has been the case that we're trying to promote sustainability where we can, but it has been the case that the customer actually reached out to us, hey, can you deliver, or what can you do in terms of CO2 reductions, which actually led to very good discussions, because we're on the same page. When we got this kind of information from a customer, we're on board, we set up meetings and so on. So there are a couple of examples of customers where we're now very close with, because we speak the same language. It actually improves our communication with the customer and our relation with the customer.